Time being 9:30, I'd like to open up our Long Range Capital Planning and Utilization Committee. Chris, are we okay with the quorum or we need to wait? Oh, okay. We will stay in recess for a couple minutes here until we get a senator to join us. That move, I came late to the first meeting. So. Thank you, senators, for attending. I'll give you a moment to get your packets open. And we will begin here in just a moment. Another couple months it won't be. So I would like to open Long Range Capital Planning Utilization Committee meeting. And I would like to start with the acceptance of the minutes of June 10th.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
I will abstain because I was not at the last meeting.
All right, thank you, Representative Cloutier. If you're in favor of the motion to accept the minutes of June 10th, 2024, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstention. We have no old business. We will move to new business, disposal, highway or turnpike funds and real estate. First item is 24031, Department of Transportation, authorization to sell approximately 5 acres state-owned north side in the town of Troy. And with that, sir, please introduce yourself and present item 31.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Steve Labonte. I am the legislative liaison and senior hearings examiner at the Department of Transportation. Today, the department requests authorization to sell 1.50 acres of state-owned land located on the northerly side of Monadnock Street in the town of Troy. The department will enter into a listing agreement for the term of 1 year with HKS Associates with the listing price of $52,500 plus the administrative fee of $1,100. And it will be HKS, if they're successful in the sale, will be given a 6% sales commission. The subject property is identified in the town of Troy tax records as tax map 12, lot 15B. It was purchased on December 6, 2004 from Lakeville Shores Incorporated for $29,000 for the Troy Bypass Project, which was later dissolved in August of 2016. The sale will be subject to the following conditions. The grantee will be responsible to get any local and state approvals, and the sale will be subject to restriction will be placed on the property in the event of a sale which will require the purchaser to coordinate with DHR if they do any kind of subsurface investigation because of the archaeological sensitivity of the property. We received a marketing analysis from 4 different realtors, and we determined that HKS Associates was based on their marketing analysis and what they gave for their estimate of a value. It was closest to the state's appraisal, which was done by a licensed certified general appraiser in the state, and we determined HKS was the successful bidder.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none. Moved by Lang, seconded by Pearl. If you're in favor of item 031, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Lamonte, would you move to item 32, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Department requests authorization to sell 3,350 square feet or .077 acres of state-owned land located on the northeasterly side of Route 11 in Guilford, also known as south of Belknap Point Road. The sale will be direct to the abutter, Richard Zagman, in the amount of $61,400 plus an administrative fee of $1,100. The state-owned parcel was acquired from the estate of Alfred V. Lincoln by quitclaim deed as part of a larger parcel in 1959 for the realignment and construction of Route 11 in Guilford. The department, the sales conditions will be required to have a survey done. The grantee will be also responsible for obtaining all local and state approvals, and due to the proximity of with the Lincoln Municipal Airport, the grantee will be notified of any FAA required notices should they do any kind of construction. A staff appraiser appraised the property as contributory value just because of its shape and location. It won't have any access to Route 11. $61,400. Yeah, that's $61,400, and per statute, the town of Guilford will be offered the property as well as the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, but they're likely not to have any interest.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none. Motion made by Lang, second by Mills. If you're in favor of item number 32, would you signify by saying aye?
Aye.
If you're opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Lamonte. Can we go to item 33, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Department requests approval to dispose of a parcel of state-owned land consisting of 35.58 acres located on the southerly side of Monadnock Street in the town of Troy. It's in proximity to the previous sale as identified, or the item number 24-031. The department will enter into a listing agreement, a one-year listing agreement with HKS. The listing price will be $45,000, and they will assess an $1,100 administrative fee. $145,000, and they will assess an $1,100 administrative fee. The department is the parcel was acquired on December 6, 2004 from Lake Shores Inc. for $82,000. Also for the Troy Bypass Project, which again was dissolved on August 24th, 2016. The parcel is encumbered by a utility easement to Public Service of New Hampshire, which is approximately 4.723 acres on the easterly side of the parcel. After a departmental review, it was determined that it was surplus. The parcel will be sold with the following conditions. A survey will be required, and the survey will prepare a perimeter boundary line plan. It will also be sold with the same restrictions as was put on item 031, due to the archaeological sensitivity of the area. Again, there were 5 realtors that submitted marketing analysis for this parcel, and HKS, again, based on their analysis, based on their location, we determined that they were probably best to market the property. They will be given a 6% commission should they be successful. Again, the state took a look at this parcel and initially thought it was appraised a value of $114,000, but after looking at HKS analysis, we thought we could probably go up to $145,000.
Questions from Mr. Lamonte on this item? Yes, Senator
Okay.
Lang.
I'm looking at your appraisals, so 5 appraisals here, and the state's is way low compared to everybody else. The closest one is the next highest bid is 156,000 by the people you're selecting, with the high in a 355 range, and yet we're selling for 145. Thought there a reason we're so low compared to what even the estimates of the commercial realtors are?
Well, again, we actually went up from our initial appraisal based on, again, this is reviewed by a licensed certified general appraiser. Many of the real estate agencies that put in analysis, they're not doing that. A CGI is going to go in and they're going to do further analysis, and that's the number they came up with when he reviewed HKS's marketing analysis. He had determined that, okay, it could come up off 114, but he thought the number was 145,000. Now, we can go up from that, certainly, but that's what we thought a reasonable number that would fetch. And in light of the fact that somebody's going to have to come in, if they want to do any type of development, they have to coordinate with DHR just because the archaeological sensitivity.
Senator, satisfied with that?
I am.
Move on the item.
Move to approve.
Motion by Lang, second by Pearl, to approve item 033. If you're in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If you're opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Lamonte, item 34, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll first point out that there was a handout given for this item and also for 035, just to help explain it. Because what we're doing is we're selling a section of the layout of the Conway bypass that's made up of, I believe it's 7 different parcels, and we're selling that directly to the abutter Sean and Caitlin Baldwin for $235,000, which they've already paid the administrative fee of $1,100 when they put in the initial request. So what I've done is I've provided that handout because as I went through the description of looking at the description of the various parcels, it was difficult to kind of follow along because this corridor is made up of bits and pieces of larger parcels. So as you look at it, you can see that first we look at parcel 87, and as I looked at this description, it is a little misleading. So in this case, this was done, I believe, back in, this was completed back in 2016, and what happened was, or 2006, and what happened was the owner at the time was interested in another parcel, a section of parcel 88, and what was worked out and negotiated was a land slot plus. And in this case, actually, what happened is the state swapped 1.72 acres that was worth 11,000. In return, the state credited 5,000, which was the value as determined of the section of parcel 87 that the state was receiving, and the owner at the time, Mr. Charles, gave the state $6,000. So the two values, the value was $11,000. The state provided property and credit, and in return, we also got $6,000. Parcel 88, as you see, basically it is a smaller section, consists inside the corridor that's now part of the subject property, and the remaining section was purchased by the state and then previously conveyed to, I believe, Mr. Baldwin or his predecessor in interest. And that's the same for 89, 90. As you look up at 91, the sale kind of shoots out because there were these uneconomic remnants that the state had to buy, because basically it was bisecting them from the larger parcel. And then you have parcel 92 and parcel 94. That makes up the subject parcel that is being conveyed. Again, the conditions of the sale will require the grantee to commission a licensed land survey to do a boundary line survey. Buyer's responsible for obtaining all state and local approvals, and the property also will be conveyed subject to a trail easement that will be held by DNCR. So a staff appraiser took a look at the property and determined that it had a value of $235,000.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Lamonte?
Second that.
Motion made by Lang, seconded by Mills to approve item 034. If you're in favor of that motion, you signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
If
Aye.
you're- If you're opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Before you move to the next item, sir, item 35, I don't believe you have an answer to this, but I'm just going to ask Chris if you could ask the department. So we're getting to a point that we're able to sell off many of these parcels from the Conway bypass. Is anyone keeping a running tally of when these parcels are sold and what the balance is? And because if I remember, it's going to be a tremendous drain on our state paying this back.
The answer to that is yes. The department has kept a running total. And I believe, and Steve, if you can correct me, the department's paid what was owed back to the federal government. So they've paid what was owed. The money that they get for these sales goes back to replenish what they used to pay that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, we will move on to item 35, please.
Item 35 is similar to item 34 in that we're selling a larger parcel that's made up of bits and pieces of other parcels. Again, this parcel is a total of 32.23 acres, which lies in between Eaton Road and Stark Road in the town of Conway. The sale will be directly to James and Jean Drummond for $175,000 and the $1,100 administrative fee. The subject property is made up of 6 parcels, which divides the land now owned by the Drummonds. And so Drummonds own a larger parcel. The corridor basically bisects that in half. They own the parcels on either side. So we're selling these parcels. Parcel 77 is a small parcel, as you can see on the handout. Parcel 80, again, has parcel 80 and 79 were purchased from the Kennett property, parcel 83. And as you see, I'll point out parcel 85 is pretty apparent on the handout. But parcel 84, I just point out that it's actually made up of two small, tiny pieces. So the buyer, again, in this case, the buyer will, as a condition of the sale, be required to commission a licensed land surveyor to do a perimeter boundary line survey. The buyer is responsible for obtaining all any and all state and local approvals. And again, this property will also be sold subject to the trail easement that will be held by DNCR. Again, this was looked at by a certified general appraiser, and $175,000 was determined to be the value.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Motion by Lang, seconded by Pearl to approve the sale of item 35. You have a question? Please. Okay, sounds good. If you're in favor of that motion, you'll signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. Motion carries. I will recognize Representative Egger for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a general question. We've gone through a lot of these, and we've gone through them in the past. When you say a registered land surveyor is going to provide a plot or whatever, do they also set in the corners? Are they also is it part of the requirement to put the boundary markers in?
So that'll depend on the sale. We will do that if there is a need for it. And that's usually a determination that's made by our chief of mapping and survey. If he sees there's value, like we just sold a piece in Antrim and markers were put in to establish the conservation easement that property was being sold under. Earlier this year, we sold a property up in Conway that had a rail corridor going through it. Markers were put on either corner to establish where that rail corridor was. So it all depends, but if it's a larger parcel out in the middle, it may not require, we may not make that as a condition.
Further question?
Yes, thank you. Sometimes it's really confusing of who owns what out there, especially when you're switching stuff around like this. I think it really ought to be considered to be putting these in, so there's no question in the future. That's just a comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
To
you.
look at.
Seeing no further question, we will move to item 029, Department of Environmental Service, requesting authorization, Weeks Crossing Dam in Warren, New Hampshire. Thank you, Mr. Lamonte. Welcome to Public Works, and please just introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Corey Clark. I'm the Chief Engineer at the Dam Bureau at the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. In this request, NHDS is seeking to transfer ownership of Weeks Crossing Dam from the state of New Hampshire to the town of Warren. The backstory on this is on July 1st of 2017, Weeks Crossing Dam failed during a flooding event resulting from a significant thunderstorm in the Baker River Valley. This failure caused Gould Hill Road, which is located immediately downstream of the dam, to be overtopped and failed. Because of the significant value that Weeks Crossing Pond provided to the community, the town of Warren, in the form of recreation, but also more importantly in the form of fire suppression, the town sought assistance to try to rebuild the dam through Fish and Game, who was at the time the owner of that structure. Ultimately, it was agreed upon by the town, DES, and Fish and Game, because DES is responsible for the repair and operation and maintenance of Fish and Game-owned structures, that the state would rebuild the dam and the town would take over ownership once the dam was rebuilt. So NHDS worked with FEMA at the time and was able to secure 75% funding for that reconstruction. And so NHDS undertook the reconstruction using force account labor. That reconstruction of Weeks Crossing Dam was completed in 2021. after securing the necessary easements from fishing game along with adjacent property owners. The footprint of the dam had to be offset a little bit, moved upstream from where it was located prior because of the location of Gould Hill Road. And during the Warren Town meeting in March of 2023, the town voted to take over ownership and maintenance of the dam. And so NHCS has been working since that time with FEMA to make sure that they have all the requirements that they need to secure the funding reimbursement. And we are pretty close to finalizing that documentation to transfer the funding from that reconstruction to NHCS. So the transfer of this dam will be one small step in reducing the number of dams that the state of New Hampshire currently owns, which is a goal of NHCS, as the risk associated with dam ownership continues to increase and dams become more of a financial burden on the state of New Hampshire. This item was presented to the New Hampshire Council on Resources and Development in May 11th, 2023, and was approved at that time.
Thank you, sir. Questions for Mr. Clark? Motion by Lang, seconded by Pearl to move item for the transfer of property, item number 29. If you're in favor of that motion, you'll signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Please make all towns aware that we're willing to turn dams over to them. Maybe in one of your email blasts I receive all the time. Thank
you,
you,
everyone.
Ms. Clark. We will move to item 3.0, our last item here for Department of Administration, Administrative Services. Approval to sell on behalf of the state of New Hampshire, City of Claremont for $700,000. Fees 0.25 acres, land south bank of Sugar River. Please.
There we go. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, honorable committee members. My name is Jared Nyland. I'm the Real Property Asset Manager with the Department of Administrative Services. The department proposes to sell on behalf of the state of New Hampshire to the city of Claremont, the Monadnock Mill building located at 17 Water Street in Claremont, along with the quarter acre or so of land that it sits upon. For the selling price of $700,000, which includes the $1,100 administrative fee required by RSA 440, 3A. The building is a 4-story office building consisting of over 32,000 square feet of gross building area and over 21,000 square feet of usable interior office space. This is a historic mill building that was originally constructed in 1840. The state acquired it in 1981 for little or almost no consideration, $1 or no consideration, depending on your source of information. We then proceeded to invest approximately $1.6 million in renovating it and then continued to use it as an office building, as a state office building until earlier this year. The department identified it some time ago as a building that had increasing maintenance costs, regular maintenance costs, time and time again. A few years ago, the determination was made that we would like to dispose of it due to the mounting costs of continuing to own it. And then we proceeded to wait until this year when the last tenant agency, DHHS, finally vacated. So now the building is vacant, and when we began the disposal process, we received interest from the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. They took a look at the building, toured it, but then contacted us and let us know that they had decided they were not interested. We then proceeded to speak with the city of Claremont. They had previously expressed interest in acquiring the building, and we arrived at a price of $700,000. We haven't negotiated any conditions of sale. I anticipate that the city will want to do a phase 1 environmental site assessment. That's probably about it. And Cord, Cord recommended the proposed disposal by sale at its meeting in August.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Questions? Representative Cludier.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'd like to make the motion to approve if it's.
Sure, yeah.
I'm all
send
set
it
with
across.
questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Morning, thanks for coming. So where did all the tenants that were in this building, where did they relocate to? Did we build a new facility there?
I do not know the answer to that, to the entire answer to that question. So the tenants were primarily state agencies. So one by one, they have found other digs, whether by lease or building, I don't know. In individual cases, DHHS, well, I keep looking over at Karen, 'cause I know she knows the answer to these questions. But yeah, I believe DHHS moved into a new lease space nearby.
Did you have something to add? And I apologize for my informality by just calling you Karen, so.
It's okay. Karen Mantamaki, Director of Plant and Property with the Department of Administrative Services. Just to follow up on Jared's comments, which are all true, the DMV was in there at one point, as well as Probation and Parole Office for the Department of Corrections. And over time, they've decided that this building is not really ideal for their operations and have moved to other locations. DHHS recently found a leased property, and they moved out in the end of June of this current year. So that's kind of.
Thank you for that. Any further questions? Representative Cloutier, recognize you for a motion.
Yes, I move to that we approve item 24-030.
Motion made and seconded. If you're in favor of that motion, you'll signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Chris, do you want to speak to the informational item 036?
So 036 is just a report from Cord on their last meeting where they, in May, excuse me, not their last meeting, the meeting from May 9th. We get these periodically to include as informational items for the committee. Agencies will also include Cord minutes or information as they make recommendations to dispose of property. What you may see from these is potentially items that are going to come forward at a later time or that may be before you today.
Thank you. Date of the next meeting, we just finished our previous capital meeting, and I've offered November 12th, a Tuesday, as our designated day. If you want to check schedules, get back to us, starting at 9:30, November 12th.
I'm not sure whether I can have a dental appointment, but I could maybe reschedule it, Mr. Chair, if it's a
Okay.
problem.
Okay. All right. With that, accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
If you're in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. We are closed for business. Thank you all for your time.